Kirsten. So as you might have gathered, at the moment members are working on 2 different educational programs. Max has just talked from the Pathways program, which is a newer program, and then Paul is working from what we call the Competent Communicator Manual. This is a series of 10 speeches, and Paul will be delivering speech number 8. His specific objectives are related to visual aids. His main aim is to get comfortable with visual aids by selecting the appropriate visual aids for the message he's trying to convey, but also to use these with confidence and ease. The purpose of visual aids is to increase understanding because they are very visual, they enhance our attention and promote our attentiveness. So what I'll be looking at for tonight is to see his progress, but also to see how he utilises these visual aids in a public speech. So with a speech entitled There is a Problem with My Hard Drive, please welcome Paul.
Thank you, Toastmaster, and welcome guests. I've spent many years working in computer shops with people bringing me all sorts of different problems, from it's not turned on, IT 101, have you tried turning it on and off again, to it is absolutely dead, you're not getting anything back. But when they walk in and say, I've got a problem with my hard drive, and they present you with a computer. This is not a hard drive. It may contain a hard drive, but it is not a hard drive. So I want to take you through a few things about what you actually have in a computer. Inside, you have the motherboard that contains all the parts for a computer to run, whether it be your desktop, like what I was just showing you, or your laptop. Just a smaller size, but the same thing. Ultimately, they break down into 3 separate parts. You have the processor, which sits under here and needs cooling, so you've got the fan and the heatsink. They generally look something like this. The more modern ones don't have pins on them. They have the pins on the opposite side because people break them when they take them apart. So it was obviously a good way to move forwards. I like people to think about the processor, or the CPU as it's known, as a car engine. You get a 2-litre car, you can get a 3-litre car. You can get the same with the power of the processor. You can get a 1.4, a 1.8, and this is sort of how quickly the brain of the computer can think. Now I know we're moving into multiple core processors, but in theory, a computer can only do one job at a time. It does it stupidly quickly, but it does one job at a time. So, if you're doing one job at a time, you need some memory to think about it, which are these slots here. And as long as you don't run out of memory, you're not going to slow down. You can think about it. If you kill the power, you've forgotten. It's gone off. So the memory in here, random access memory, is lost as soon as it loses power, unlike what's stored on a hard drive. This is known as volatile memory. When you go into places like PC World to buy a computer, they go, oh, it's got 8 or 16 gig of memory. Wow, it must be better, it must be faster. But that's not actually how it works. If your requirements only take up 2 gig of memory, then having the additional is in like overflow. It makes no difference. It's only when you reach the limits of how much you can think that you'll be slowed down. Now, this is a hard drive. So, there's not many people that have actually seen inside a hard drive. So in a lot of ways, they're very much like a CD. A lot shinier, and the old record players. So you have the needle that moves across. Because it's a spinning active part, it is something that does wear out. This is the most important part of your computer because this is where your data is stored. If you're going to lose anything, this is the bit you don't want to break. When the data is stored on here, you've also got things like, I've deleted my file, is it gone forever? In a lot of ways, or most of the time to an average user, yes, you've waved goodbye to your data. But I describe it very much like your hand. Your thumb tells you where your files are. Your files are either on finger 1, finger 2, finger 3, or finger 4. So if I say that the picture that I've stored on finger 4 is deleted, I've only told the thumb that it's gone, that I'm allowed to write in the last slot. So until you've overwritten a piece of data, then it's never truly gone and it can be recovered. You might have heard the term, they formatted my computer. Unless they've done a true full format where they delete every step by step, this takes hours to happen because it is overwriting each part of the data. A standard format will only rub out the thumb, meaning the data is still there until it's been overwritten. I'd like to open it up. If anyone's got any questions about computers, I'm also willing to take that on. No? So let's move it on to some other steps. We have expansion slots on these cards. The top one is known as a PCI Express slot. There are older versions, which were AGP, but they're a bit non-existent now. You can put a graphics card in here, which takes some of the thinking power away from the processor, the main brain. If you're producing high-level graphics and things like that, you have so much calculations that have to be worked through by the computer. And they're two very separate sort of brains. A GPU, graphics processing unit, opposed to a CPU, will calculate very differently. I'm going to avoid going into depth on that, but these are other reasons that your computer will slow down. I'm going to draw this to an end because this is the fundamentals of how a computer works.